Welcome to Toffee TV. I am joined by Dave Vitty. Back. He's back since
It's been talked about for a while, hasn't it?
I
think it was June
when you were here.
and I was here, and the sofa's changed, which is very nice. It's an upgrade. It's lovely.
It was changed for you because you come in.
It wasn't changed for me.
Well,
it wasn't changed for me, but it's really nice.
Yeah, no, it is. It is like, listen, I sit there sometimes and it's nice, and I think Dave will love this. And now he's here and he loves it.
Yeah, I do. I love it.
It's great. You mentioned that it was June. Changes were afoot at Everton last time you were in. Marcel Brands and Marco Silva had just come in. So what have you kind of made of the time so far? Obviously we're in March and we're not going to win the league. So what have you made so far?
Well, when we were here last time, as you say, there was this bright new dawn, new manager, new director of football. It was starting again, wasn't it, after the Koeman fiasco? It was exciting. And in a nutshell, the season hasn't been the season that we all hoped it would be, is one easy way of glossing over it. There's been highs and lows and average and lows and the odd high. And, here we find ourselves at the time of recording and we're on 40 points. So
we're safe.
We're safe. We're safe. But bearing in mind it's the end of March, safety at the end of March wasn't necessarily going to be the goal that we were talking about in the summer before the season started. I don't know. I mean, it's been there's been a lot of bad results, and only a few weeks ago people were questioning whether Silva was the right man, and talks of trying to replace him. But then at that point you think, well, who are you going to get in now at this stage in the season who's actually going to do anything? And I do genuinely believe that we have got a young, exciting manager for the long term. I would have hoped that he would have had a more solid first season. I think we all would have thought that. But it's a long job, and I think also you've got to question the attitude of some of the players throughout the season. Yeah, because there have been certain performances that have just frankly not been good enough, and the manager can't take all the rap for that. Yes, I know there's been certain instances where people have questioned his tactics. Why did you take that player off? Why did you bring that player on? And why didn't you start with him? All these different things. But ultimately, a lot of the performances haven't been good enough, and you've then got to question why that is within the squad and why players aren't seemingly giving it 100% week in, week out. Yeah,
I mean, the season started okay. We had the excitement of deadline day, and we brought 3 players in from Barcelona, and I thought we started okay. We had a good performance down at Wolves with 10 men. We lost Jags in the first half, and we were unlucky not to win, and we beat Southampton, and we're 2-0 up at Bournemouth, and should have won that one and threw that away. But going into kind of September, October, we started finding our feet.
There was some momentum there,
wasn't there? Some really good performances away from home, and we just weren't quite getting them at Arsenal and Manchester United. Good draw at Chelsea.
Well, the Chelsea game for me was a turning point.
Right.
That was the point. That draw against Chelsea on paper wouldn't have meant much to people, but I think for Evertonians, you saw that and you thought, actually, this is where we kick on.
Yeah.
There's been the series of first games where the manager's getting used to new players are getting used to the squad, etc., etc. And that to me felt like, right, this is now a foundation upon which to build. And things were looking better. And then it just seemed to fall apart.
Anfield happened.
Yeah. Which, I mean, let's face it though, they played well in the derby.
They did.
And everybody was gutted when that goal went in, when it went in. But they still played well. And actually, when you looked at the series of results, things were still good. And it's like, okay, that's disappointing, but things are still fine. But then it just starts to crumble again.
I think the two home games after the derby, Newcastle and Watford, because I think...
Well, the Watford one, I remember I was there at Goodison for the Watford one, and it just wasn't good enough.
No, we collapsed, didn't we? I mean, we were winning 1-0, Richarlison scored. I think the Newcastle game, I think everyone after the derby, it was like, we come in here and we were filming and we were like, played really well. And you know what? I remember saying at the time, I wish we were playing them again on Wednesday because I'd fancy us.
Yeah.
Because we'd played that well, we missed chances, Gomez with the header and stuff like that. And we had Newcastle at home and we didn't beat them and it was flat. And it was like, right, Watford, we've got to beat these tonight.
Watford game were within days
within
of each
like
other,
4
like
days, so you think, come on. And then you're right, the Watford game, we took the lead in that game as well, Richarlison scores. And nothing really happened. It was flat, and then within a couple of minutes after the break, we're getting beat 2-1.
And that to me, again, in the same way that the draw against Chelsea was significant, I thought at the time, in terms of putting a marker down and kind of go, right, this is where we move on from. That just put all sorts of doubt in my head again. Yeah. And I just thought, we're at home, we're playing Watford. There's added reasons why Marco Silva will want to do well against. I'm not saying that he didn't want to do well, but just as a squad performance, I just thought it's just not good enough.
No,
you know, and for our club who have got the aspirations that we had and do have, you've got to be winning those games. And it was just the abject collapse, which. See, I don't mind. I don't like losing, but I don't mind losing as long as they've played well. Yeah. And actually, no one likes losing a derby. However, as a result, you could put that one into that category. Yeah, yeah. You know, it was annoying and disappointing at the end, but ultimately they played well. I don't mind that. Yeah. But it's when it's games that they should have won, and through one reason and another they haven't done, and you walk away and you kind of go, we deserve nothing more from that game. You know, they were the better side. They took their chances. They totally deserved the 3 points. That's the disappointing thing. And there's been too many of those. There's been too many of those performances that just haven't been good enough.
I mean, you know, Watford, we missed a penalty after they went 2-1 up 2 minutes later. Luca Dean rescues us in injury time with a free kick. Yeah. You know, and then we had Spurs battered us at home, and we win at Burnley, and then we lose again, and it was like that. But you know, you went into that turn of the year, you're thinking we might be able to get a little bit of momentum here. You know, we beat Lincoln in the cup, and then then Millwall happened. Just when you think you know, can we get a bright spot in the season?
Something to sort of prop up the season and actually keep some hope of something, and then as you say, and then Millwall happens.
I mean, what were your feelings with that Millwall game?
Well, my first feelings of the Millwall game is that a few of my mates said, do you fancy going? And I'm like, no. Because I went last time we drew them in the third round of the Cup. And I said, never again. Mad, you know, I like going to away games. And I've been to a lot of places, but I've got no desire to ever go back to the New Den again. and you know, as it turned out, you know, it wasn't a peaceful day. No. But yeah, that whole just the way it happened, you know, and again, just felt like the life had been sucked out of us at the end, and then that's a bit like, oh well, there's another thing off the list of
that's it, isn't it?
Another thing that we won't be achieving this season, and then you start to think, you start to look at the table, and you go, I can't believe we're doing this. But you start to look at the games that are left, and you go, I'm not sure where the points are coming from, because you know when you look at fixtures, it's like putting a bet on or whatever, and you look at certain fixtures and you kind of go, right, Man City versus Burnley, they should do home win, right? Or you look at so and so versus so and so, draw, so and so versus so and so, away win. But because the results had been, well, you know, as we said, but like with the Watford game at home, games that on paper Everton should have won, and then they didn't, you know, and Bournemouth and other fixtures like this, and then you sort of look at it and you go, I don't know where the next points are coming from, because these ones that on paper should be easy results are not now, and then then there's calls for maybe the manager isn't right and get rid of him now. And there's polls on Twitter and stuff. And what do you think? Right man, not the right man. Get rid of him now. Keep him till the end of the season. And you start to look through and you think, we potentially could be in trouble here. You know, we could be. I mean, I know that's been the story of Everton for a lot of years. You know, many people have predicted that we would be the big club that would just fall through the floor. You know, when you're sitting in an okay position, but then do that drop down. I mean, and that's going back, Christ, you know, God knows how many years. But I did look at it and I thought, and I was trying to map out where the points were going to come from. And, you know, we've now got, and who'd have thought that actually we would have got to 40 points after beating Chelsea? You know, because that was the thing. You start to look at all those big games and you go, we still got Arsenal to play. We still got Man United to play. You know, still got Chelsea to play. And you just automatically, at that point, Liverpool to play. And you automatically just think, well, there's nothing there, there's nothing there, there's nothing there. So, yeah, I feel relieved, I suppose, from where I am. But ultimately, it's all a bit flat. All I can do now is put this season down to hopefully being a foundation. Hopefully this is the season that Marco finds out what he's got, what he hasn't got, what he needs. And between him and Brands, they build upon that and hopefully go forward. But, yeah, I mean, finishing mid-table is the best that we can hope for.
I mean, it's mad, isn't it? Because after Millwall, you know, when I remember we went to Huddersfield on the Tuesday and it was a big game. You know, you're looking and going.
Well, I was going to come to that, but then there was the snow, wasn't it?
And
the only reason I mean, if there's one place that's always going to get snow, it's Huddersfield, isn't it? Even if it's not snowing anywhere else, Huddersfield will have snow. And I thought, I can't really risk it because I'm on the radio the next day in Manchester, and I thought if I get stuck somewhere or whatever and I don't get back, you know, it'll be. So I didn't make it in the end, but yeah, that was an important.
It was a massive win and a clean sheet after the way we'd folded at the weekend. But then we have Wolves at home, and I was thinking, oh no, this is it. Now we'll beat these, and they beat us 3-1, and you're right. You were looking. I know that Ped was very concerned at one stage with where our points were coming from, but you're right. There was because of the way they've been, there was no clear way. There was no results where you go, that's a win. Yeah. We'll beat them. I mean, I'm always confident, so I was like, yeah, we'll win there. But I thought we'd win at Watford and we got beat, and I thought we'd beat Wolves at home, we lost. So you start going, well, if we're not winning the games that
the ones that you put down, might win. And then how on earth are you going to get past, you know, the so-called bigger teams?
And other teams are winning below them, and all of a sudden,
and then also you look towards the end of the season, and you kind of go, well, those ones that should be good, but then you're going to have teams there fighting for their lives. You know, so what? 7 games left at the moment.
7 games left, but on 40 points.
On 40 points, West Ham, Arsenal, Fulham, United, Palace, Burnley,
and Tottenham,
Spurs. Well, Burnley are going to be fighting.
But that's a game we should win.
I know it is. No. I mean, listen, I know it is. But
I know what you're going to say.
I'm actually kind of, I'm less concerned now than I was. But you know, going back a few weeks.
Yeah, but imagine 2 weeks ago.
When you were looking through those fixtures, and you kind of go, well, West Ham ain't going to be easy. Arsenal, no. Fulham, yes, but they'll be fighting. United, no. Palace, who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows? That could
They're
go.
A bit like us,
that could go either way. You know, we could win 3-0, we could lose 3-0. It could be anything in between. Who knows what's going to happen there? You know, and then Burnley, we should win. But,
and then Spurs in the new stadium,
Spurs, no. You know, so.
But now then, okay, we've got the 40 points, and let's talk about the last game, because the last game was a very good. I mean, we started the first 20 minutes, it was backs to the wall.
Yeah.
We just give them too much respect. But second half against Chelsea in particular, Everton the better side and good value for the victory, and that's the level for me. Yeah. That second half, that's the level that Everton have got, and
they have to be.
They have to be at that level every single time, and if they can, these conversations will never happen, because they'll finish higher and higher with better players. But how can you give that performance in the first 20 minutes and then the performance in the second half?
But this ultimately is the whole root problem. it's in the same way that, people always talk about cup competitions, for example, and in the cup, anybody can win in the cup, and that's small side from division, whatever, are playing the game of their life, and they're giving it 110%, man to a man, and they can actually, take that big scalp because they're putting in everything they can put in. And as you say, it doesn't matter which side it is, right? Every side in the league can beat another side if they give it their all.
Yeah.
Granted, there's a bit of luck and a following wind at times, but everybody can give it their all. And as you say, the second half against Chelsea, that's Everton playing to the level that they should be playing.
Yeah.
Players playing to a decent level. And with that in mind, Everton should be competing week out with Chelsea and with Arsenal.
Yeah.
And, I thought we played well against City. At home.
We did, yeah.
I didn't think that was a bad performance, actually.
No.
I mean, I know we never won, and ultimately the outcome was perhaps what people may have thought on paper. But as a performance,
it was
and I was there
decent,
for that one as well, and I thought I wasn't despondent about the City performance.
No. Frustration, really, wasn't it?
But then why, when, professional footballers with everything they could possibly need to perform at the highest level, why are they not doing it week in, week out? Why did they not do it at home against Watford? Why did they not do it in several other fixtures where there was just too many people who weren't performing to their ability and seemed to be happy to coast along 55, 60% or something like that? It's just not good enough.
So bear that in mind with the Chelsea result last time out. Are you more confident now, say, for Arsenal at home? Because for me, Everton can beat Arsenal. I don't think Arsenal are great.
Of course they can. No, I agree. But which team turns out?
Yeah, and that's it, isn't it?
And that's it. If Everton play the way that they can play, and we know that they can play, then there's no reason why they can't beat Arsenal. But they could also come out half-arsed and get tonked 4-0.
Yeah, that's the thing.
And that's the problem.
Do you put any of that on the manager?
Well, if you don't, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because I suppose on one hand, if you don't put it on the manager, then what's the manager doing? Or rather, what's the value of one manager over another?
Yeah.
But it's tough because I do feel that, you see, the manager can prepare the side as best he can before, but he can't. Once they're out, really, it's up to them to do it. And yes, tactics come in and substitutions and whatnot, and they've got to play the right way and obviously play to the player's strengths. But it's a mixture, isn't it? I know it sounds like a cop-out answer, but it's the manager. But ultimately, I actually put far more blame with the players this season than I do with the manager.
Yeah.
I know that the critics of Silva will question some of his substitutions, and I've questioned some of his
and rightly so,
substitutions as well. And you think, why do that? For example,
Newcastle away the other week, the subs. Oh my!
Yeah, exactly. The subs have been strange, and other things, and you wonder why. Why is Lookman not getting more of a chance? Why is Lookman not started or even featured in more games when Walcott has been sitting in that position?
Yeah.
And I'm not here to slag off players, and I'm not having a go at Theo Walcott per se, but I think that we've got really good options. And actually, why is Walcott not coming on for more of a balance of a game? Because he's got youth, he's got skill, he's got pace, he can change a game, but he needs game time, he needs confidence to develop him as a player. Otherwise, what he's going to do is he's going to go elsewhere.
I mean, the manager said, I talked about him last week, didn't he? Said he's not consistent in training, but I suppose, and they have to look at, they look at the whole week, don't they, rather than just the game. But then the flip side to that might be if he had a bit more of a carrot. Do you know what I mean? If he had a bit more of a carrot, Lookman, say, I don't know, he may turn in better performances or do more in training. But you're right, I think everybody's right to question the manager as well. without, you can question him without saying he needs to go.
Yeah,
Because he's made mistakes. There's no question about it, has he?
But he's learning in a job and a big job. Here's a question for you though: do you think that the players respect him, or do the big players respect him?
Well, what I'm told is they all really like him.
I'm not saying that they don't.
Yeah. I would say yes, and I'll tell you why I would say yeah. Because of the second half performance against Chelsea. I think enough was said at half time in that dressing room, and they came out and gave a night and day performance.
Yeah.
Now, I think if you don't really respect the manager, you get the performances, like you've said, half-assed. People, well, there's been too many of them. Now, what I would say is, has he said something different in that half-time against Chelsea? Because that hasn't always been the case this season. Where I think the big changes come, Dave, and I really do, is the 17-day break they had between Watford and Cardiff, when he had more time with them on the training ground. I think, and I don't know this, and it hasn't been reported, but I think there was a lot of home truths said in that period about who was doing what and who wasn't doing what. Yeah. Because barring 25 minutes against Newcastle, in general, performances have been a lot better. They came back after that break, beat Cardiff. That was a tricky game, by the way. That was absolutely a really tricky game. We went to Cardiff and won 3-0. Yeah. We then played Liverpool at home, second best attack in the Premier League, restricted them to very little, and probably should have won the game in the end. We then go to Newcastle and are 2-0 up and coasting until we have a collapse. And we've responded really well with the victory against Chelsea. So I think since the break, whatever went on in that break, I think that some people have kind of gone, I'm playing for my Everton future now. And I've noticed he started to be a little bit more blunt, a little bit more critical of the players, and a bit more, if they don't do it, they won't be here.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing we all want from him. We want him. Ped wants him to smile a bit more and be a bit more animated. But I want him to be a bit more straight down the middle and go, if they don't do it, we'll get people in who can do it, because this is a big club. And just because you're on big money, you have to perform. And I just think when people are calling for his head, to me, people were talking about Mikel Arteta, okay? Get him in from City's Pep's number 2, he's this, but he's never managed in the Premier League. I know. It's a gamble. He could be amazing, Arteta.
It's a massive gamble.
Exactly.
You know, and Arteta, for example, and I've got a lot of time for Arteta, and I hope that he does go on to become a good manager somewhere. Yeah. And why not? You know, he's having a great education in management where he is. He is. But he's got to go off and cut his teeth somewhere else.
Definitely. Yeah.
And work his way up. You don't suddenly pluck somebody off the assistants bench at City and kind of put him in. What, because he played for us? I mean, that's just nonsense, isn't it? You know, and that's just when people get blinded by sentimentality and whatnot, and they're just sort of grasping at stuff. You know,
you can understand that though a little bit, but a link, because
I can understand it.
We've been lost, haven't we, for a few seasons?
Yeah, okay. I can understand a link in so much as Mikel Arteta is somebody who understands the club, understands what it means to play for the club, understands the fans, and that's important. Of course it is, don't get me wrong. And if it was a case, you know, in years to come, when Arteta has hopefully
done something
and is potentially on a short list for a club like Everton, and if it's between Arteta and somebody else who's equally qualified, then Arteta's an interesting option, because he gives something extra because of the fact that his association with the club and the way he played football as well, you know, is also of significance. But I think at the moment, you know, just to at the time when those calls were happening, I just thought there's no point, because although funny enough, when they first started happening, I was thinking there's no point because we're not going to go down, and there's enough games now. There's no point. Let's just play out whatever. Let's play out whatever's going to play out this season. It's been disappointing. There's no two ways about it. But let's just play it out till the summer, and then we take a look at it in the summer, and then what will be will be. And then unfortunately, then there was another couple of results, and then I thought, but we could actually go down now. You know, even though I said that we weren't going to go down, the games start running out, and then you know, as you said before, worried, and then you think, I don't know whether that is going to be, or then that one's not going to be, and then there's another one there, and you do question it, which is why I'm well, we all are. We're all relieved that actually we've hopefully
We're done.
got to the point. Listen, it's not going to be the end of the points. Don't get me to stick my house on where those next points are going to come from. But there's other points in these 7 games. Of course there is.
Listen, Everton could still finish 7th. I know it's 4 points. I think the gap at the minute. Okay, we might not, and probably we won't. But Watford and Wolves, who are in 7th and 8th, are both in the FA Cup semi-final again. Yeah. So their priorities or their eyes may be on that. Everton could quite easily go to West Ham at the weekend and win. Yeah. And then follow that up with a win against Arsenal and be in the box seat. So they could easily lose both of those games as well, by the way. But that's because we don't know where they are. What you said about Palace before is exactly right. They could beat us 3-0. We could beat them 3-0, but we're both similar. Yeah. So we could have that finish. What I was saying about Silva, and I don't know whether you agree, is let's get to the summer and let's see if he can bring in another few of his players and mould that team. Because if he's come in and he's got an idea how he wants to play, you do learn once the season starts about players. So he might have got to October, November, December in particular, when things started, the wheels falling off, going, these can't do what I need them to do. And so cutting them early before he's had a chance to improve that squad, for me, doesn't really make any sense.
No, I agree. I mean, the question with Silva is, what are his type of players? Because don't forget, this is the first big job he's had. Yeah. Arguably, yeah. You know,
well, it is in England. The biggest job he's had in England is definitely, most definitely.
Doubt,
yeah,
obviously Watford and before.
With all due respect to them too.
Absolutely. Yeah. So he's operating at a different level now in terms of his finances,
scrutiny as well.
Absolutely. As you say, with greater spend comes greater criticism as well as scrutiny. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see who he does decide to bring in, and what, you know, maybe in 12 months' time, if all is still fine. That wasn't supposed to rhyme, by the way. If we'll be sat here and we might have more of a measure of who the Marco Silva players are, because at the moment, like any new manager coming in, you can't, nobody gets a completely new team from day one. So there's always an element of blending new players with existing players and whatnot, and trying to get the best out of things. And slowly he'll start to shape that. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see who his kind of players are, to sort of understand the kind of football that he wants to play at a club where we should be able to provide him with the necessary finances to build his proper team, given the right amount of time. Yeah, I think, which he wouldn't have had, again, with the greatest due respect, he wouldn't have had at Watford and he wouldn't have had at Hull.
No. And I suppose going forward, then that falls into Marcel Brands, who we mentioned at the very start. It's too early to almost judge him, isn't it, of what he wants to do. I mean, we might get more of an idea this summer now that he's had 12 months and with the players. I mean, he's been linked with Raphael, I don't know what to say, his second name, Leo or something, in France, who's a young striker, and people are like, that's the kind of play we should be going after. We'll know this summer with some of his targets. It probably won't be the most obvious people. But again, with him, we're not going to really know how successful he's been till arguably another 12 months down the line, next summer. At least, and maybe even longer than that. So this is all very new. I just think we have to almost, and it'll be easier now because we've got the 40 points, and you're right, you would imagine Everton will add to the 40 points.
It's not a God-given right that the 40 points equals safety. No. But, you would think the 7 games left now, there's some more points.
Cardiff would have to win almost as many as they've won all season to catch us.
Absolutely. So now, a few weeks on, we can sit in a slightly more comfortable position.
We can plan for maybe next season a bit more.
Well, I'm pleased that I'm here now and not a month ago.
So you knew what you were doing.
See, I knew what I was doing. When you were texting me, kind of saying when you're coming in, I was stalling because I wanted us to get to 40 points. That's what it was.
To make sure it was just a nicer conversation.
But it will be interesting to see what happens. And I would like to think that we have a young manager with an exciting future who will lead us into a new stadium. That would be great. Yeah. Because if he doesn't, where are we going to go? I mean, but in so much as, but the problem is that when Koeman came in, we had this top European manager, played at the highest level, doesn't take any bullshit from anybody. You know, he's not going to be messed around with. He's going to, you know, he brings style and an iron fist, and he's got everything we want. What can possibly go wrong? And then who would have then thought that we'd then have Sam Allardyce and Sammy Lee? And it's just like, what's happened?
Yeah. We do. We can mess things up spectacularly, can't we?
That's nobody would have predicted that from where we were.
No.
But it happened. And then fortunately, or rather hopefully, that's just a blip on what is a ultimately upward trajectory.
Smoother trajectory.
We hope.
Well, that's all we can do, isn't it? And hopefully, like you say, hopefully we'll get a few more points this season, and the manager then can get out players who he decided, you know, it isn't for him. Basically, we can take, because we need to lose half a dozen of that squad and some big earners in there who aren't contributing, and maybe it is a Theo Walcott who just is going the other way rather than the way we want.
I think so. You know, listen, Theo's had a great career. It's no doubt he's coming to the end of his career. He's given us stuff. Don't get me wrong. And I would hope that the likes of Lookman and other young players are actually learning from the senior players. Because they've got to be picking up stuff. That's how it works. But yeah, he's not going to be a long-term proposition. Here's one for you. Will we sign Gomez?
I think we will. I think we will. I think he's shown enough at times to be, if you can get him in pre-season, because don't forget, it's another big factor that 3 or 4 of them didn't even have pre-season. So if you can get Gomez signed, I think it's a big boost for everybody. Get him pre-season under his belt and get a little bit of a steady team around, stable team, because what we need more than anything is stability. I think he can be a big player for us. He's neat and tidy. In some games he's looked exceptional. Other games he's looked average.
I think for the most part he looks a class act. I'd agree with you. I think there've been certain performances where he's not lived up to expectations. No. But for me, looking at on balance of the season, I think he's certainly added something. I think he's when he's on his game, just the time that he has on the ball is something that we haven't seen in that position for a long time. In my opinion, in a way, I want him to have a fairly disappointing last 7 games. The reason being that if he plays great now, he's going to be in the shop window for everybody and there's a lot of people out there that can outbid us for his signature. And I know that he has caught the eye of a lot of people already, and even just watching games in the pub with fans of other sides, and they know about him and they're like, oh, he's a good player, and I'm a bit like, we'll just, So
forget about him.
Forget about him. So yeah, in a way, I don't want him to have a great 7 games now. I want him to have an average, maybe even poor towards the end, just to sort of tail off. And then we know he's a good player.
And we can get the best out of him.
Exactly, and then hopefully get him at a better price. That's what I'd like to say. We shall see. There you go. Fingers crossed. Big thanks for Dave. Thank you very much indeed. Pleasure as always. When you're next then, hopefully we'll be amazing. Fingers crossed. Well, I mean, we might have him back in a few weeks and we've been You just never know. Thanks for watching. See you later.